My name is Norman Earl Richmond. I have hundreds of aliases. I was drafted by the United States and I refused to fight in Vietnam. I was sentenced to 5 years in prison and a $5,000 fine, and I went underground and surfaced in Toronto. I was a journalist and a writer, and I wrote about music and politics for Contrast, a weekly African-Canadian newspaper published by Al Hamilton and Olivia Grange Walker. I actually lived on Brunswick. I'm trying to figure out whether or not it was Madison or it was Brunswick. I lived when I first came to Toronto, Howard Matthews, who was the husband of Salome Bay, his mother had a house on Brunswick, and she used to have all of us runaway slaves used to come, all the people that were dodging the draft, wanted for robbing banks and all kind of stuff. She would actually put them up, and I actually lived in that particular house with a guy by the name of Marvin X. Yeah, Marvin X is a big poet in San Francisco. He's real close to Sun Ra. And there was another guy, Odeon Pope, I think. He was jazz musician, avant-garde type guy. He lived there. I used to go to Austin Clark's house. Austin Clark and Betty Clark and Dwight Wiley. I think Dwight Wiley might have been the first black broadcaster on BBC. He was on CBC, but anyway, I used to have Christmas dinners there all the time because Austin Clark looked after me when I first came to Toronto. That was on Brunswick, so those were my connections to Brunswick. But when I came here was in '67, and you had barbershops, you had beauty parlors, fish market. It's a Jamaican vegetarian restaurant now, but that was a place, a woman by the name of Joyce. Joyce is a grocery store, and Joyce was a Jamaican woman, and my wife used to make me go from Don Mills Road to Joyce's on Bathurst and Bloor to get fish. I remember I used to hate that, and she knew if it wasn't from Joyce. You had Solomon. Solomon was a Jamaican, he was a boxer. And you had the home service. The home service was black Canadian women would bring in people that were coming in from the Caribbean as well as the United States. It was unity between. It wasn't a tribal situation. People, I guess you had less than 5,000 people in the city at that particular time, and the community was no Jamaican versus this one and that one. And the continental Africans at that particular time hadn't started coming, people from Ghana and so forth, but it was, at that particular time, it was basically African people from Canada. A lot of people came from Nova Scotia, and people who ran from America to come to Canada.